Ancient Visitors from the Timeless World by Paul McCann. The ground around the ridges of the earth's crumbled fissures had cracked wide open, and a foul stench thickly clung to the air. All over the place, blue steam shot up in intermittent blasts as if propelled by a kind of compressor. Beyond this and landscape there was an ocean of bubbling salt water, and the sulphur holes. Rivers of melting lava spewed over the surface of our planet's empty existence many eons ago. Green gas and a pale yellow sulphur smoke lay hovering over the earth floor. Up to this very day, no human has ever known anything of the Earth Watchers, who dropped in from time to time. These celestial beings had first arrived when the light first divided the darkness and the first winds blew across the earth. As told by the great mystic writings of the cave dwellers, there's a story that tells us we are not in full knowledge of the origins of our planet. This story is of a spacecraft that fell from the stars, and of these illuminated creatures that emerged from the spacecraft and hovered above the ground. Somewhere out there in deep space, a series of brilliantly lit up explosions could be seen shimmering relentlessly through the universe. 3 visitors took readings from some equipment that they had brought out from their spacecraft. Then they seemed to glide over the craters, looking here and there as if they had lost something. As they went in different directions, they each placed some small silver cylinders into the ground. As they eventually made their way to the open hatch of their spacecraft, they looked at each other and smiled. With one last look at our planet, they went inside the ship, and in seconds they were propelled through the sky just before a number of massive explosions rattled the entire planet. Billions of years later, the landscape was much different. Green grass covered the surface, and seas surrounded the coastlines. Mountains stood where before there were empty hulls. Seabirds rested on the water that ushered wave after wave to the shore. 12 fishermen made their way to shore with long oars as they rowed out, working in through the chop. They spoke about a man who had recently been crucified on a wooden cross. They continued to talk as they pulled in their nets, and their catch was huge. So heavily laden with fish was their nets that they burst, and all that the fish was there returned to the sea. As they stood there disappointed and angry about losing their catch, an enormous thunder quaked through the sky. Assuming that a storm was on its way, the fishermen rowed into shore, where they sat down and saw the very special thing happen. A spaceship came down and rested on a rock near to where 12 of them were sitting. The fishermen feared for their lives, and they kept very still. As the hatch of the spaceship opened, 3 strange beings emerged from the ship and floated through the air. They checked the soil, they measured the amount of sound around them. They seemed to be scanning for something. For almost 1 hour, the creatures moved around, squeaking, speaking, looking, writing, making notes, but they never murmured a sound. When they found whatever it was they needed, they returned to their spaceship. Time passed without anything happening. The spaceship was unable to take off. It could not leave the Earth. Something was wrong. The spaceship was unable, and it sat for hours and hours. The fishermen began to get worried and hungry and tired, and one of them decided to confront these visitors in their spaceship, so off he went. Suddenly the ship's door opened up, and one of the creatures came out and stood before this lone fisherman. The visitor seemed to wave in a friendly way, And then it spoke. "Please help us." "What do you want?" said the fisherman. And that's all of the creatures came out from their spaceship. "We need fuel." "What kind? What fuel?" "Love and goodwill energy." Where do we find that?" asked another one of the fishermen who was there, getting braver by the minute. "In the depths of your heart and soul, in every thought you think, in each action of kindness that you do for one another." A weird noise began to cut the air like a knife, roaring like a wild lion. The machine jumped into a whirring motion, and one of the visitors pointed a long finger to the spaceship before speaking. "We can monitor all you send out, and we capture kind and loving thoughts. Every single warmth, word, action, deed we can find hovering in the air and capture those. We are psychic receivers. We can monitor all of the things you send out through your thought waves. All of the positive things in life. This is then converted back into life." There was a long silence. One of the fishermen smiled. "It's the only sign of life past." "We are the first mission on Earth. Our planet is dying. We need to find a suitable place to live. So far, your planet has the best natural resources. Love is the strongest force in the universe, and if you could only harness its power, you could have enough energy force to light the entire planet for a long time." The creature suddenly stopped talking and began to change colour, green, then yellow. It fell to the ground, gasping for air, as one of the fishermen rushed over and held it in his arms, and he breathed life into its lungs, and suddenly a surge of power rushed through the spacecraft. Like a bolt of lightning, the spacecraft crackled and whirled with sounds that made the ground shake. The strange beings all smiled and touched the head of each of the fishermen, who fell to the ground unconscious. And when they awoke, the fishermen had no recollection at all of what had happened. And our planet has been visited many times with these three creatures. Will they return? Who knows? Will they stay? Who knows? Will they always find a welcome here? Who knows? Are they going to make our planet their home? Well, if the conditions are right and we have learned to live in peace with love and look after each other, maybe. Now, wouldn't that be great? The end.